First of all, just to measure that downness, the consumer sentiment, Michigan's been collecting the data regularly since 1958. The lowest reading in that entire period since then was in May of this year. There's a preliminary number for June that went up a little bit, but still is extremely low. So people are more negative in this survey, at least, than they've ever been. Moreover, if you look at comparable surveys in other rich countries, they tend to be more at like the 25th percentile of bad in other countries, whereas we're at the 0th percentile. So this is something very American, just how negative we are. A couple of years ago, people who were studying this basically came to the conclusion that if you tried to think of how people should feel about the economy based on the objective facts, and then looked at how they actually felt about the economy, that Republicans were just irrationally deranged about Joe Biden and much more negative than they should have been. You update that same analysis to today, and what you discover are Democrats are insanely irrationally deranged when it comes to the economy under President Trump. And so now, maybe with those sentences, I've lost everyone in this room. So Democrats are just exceedingly negative. Now, you can say, everyone's entitled to their own feelings, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And if you ask people what the inflation rate is under Biden, Republicans would get it wrong. They'd say too high a number. Under Trump, Democrats get it wrong, and they say a number that's even further too high than the Republicans were saying under Biden. So I think a lot of what's going on with consumer sentiment right now is our just deeply politicized and polarized society. In some ways, that gets back to what I said in the beginning about in the White House. You sort of want to be a person that when the unemployment rate is X, you feel blank about the world, and maybe that's great, maybe it's bad, whatever it is fine. You don't want to be the person who, when the unemployment rate is X, you feel completely differently about the world, depending on whether you happen to like the president or dislike the president for a whole bunch of other reasons. So what we're seeing right now is very political. Now, the question is, does it matter? So far, it doesn't. You can do a statistical model that predicts how much consumers spend. And consumer sentiment, if you look at the data up until 2019, is a small positive predictor. People say they're happy, everything else equal, controlling for everything else, they spend more. They say they're unhappy, they spend less. You run that exact same statistical model, but just use data from the last 5 years, and you discover that the unhappier people are, at least in these surveys, the more they spend. So it's the exact opposite of what you'd think. So it seems like the negativity is a feeling about the world, not something people act on when they go into a store or decide whether or not to buy a house. But there's also a question of, will that last forever? Maybe the negativity does start to bleed into the economy and have real consequences. It's an open question, and we'll see.